Hey, this is Notser, and we're going to talk about weather. Weather was an interesting topic that came up in the Colorado video. Part of that is because it was on north and the cyclone had occurred. In the background is the Hiryu on the map Land of Fire. It's the Tier 7 Japanese aircraft carrier. If you're interested in that, great. If you're not, this is talking about weather. So I'm going to tell you what I think weather should be. I think weather should be visually impactful, add great variety to these maps. We don't need a million maps for variety. We need a couple maps with a lot of weather variety, and it'll feel like a different map every single time. I think that's important. I think it needs to be in the match. It can't just be in the intro. It's great in the intro, but there needs to be times where it rolls in, it rolls out. It needs to add that visual variety that is key to keeping it fresh. As far as gameplay wise, I think you need to be very careful what you do. Denying vision globally is very dangerous, and here's why. Soviet cruisers and Soviet destroyers. These are two examples of class and factions that really would prefer to not be within 8-kilometer ranges of their targets. Let's be completely honest. They lose their power when they're that close. And I'm sure the stats will bear it out that certain classes benefit more from the denial of vision than others. And do we really want something like this on every map? So we have to consider, I'm going to lose my vision. Should I play this class? This class is weaker than this class. No, I don't think so, because that's unhealthy for the game. That moves players into a realm where they are min-maxing all the time. Even more so than they do right now. And whether you want an experience that's hugely unique and hugely impactful, it's a game, first and foremost. And you're not going to have the variety that you want. People aren't going to play a class just to play a class. That's not how games work. They actually want to win. They're going to play classes that have more power than other classes. We can see it right now. 0.5.5, hugely impactful to the Soviet destroyer and the US destroyer gun health situation. They gained a lot of power. And I do mean a lot of power. They might actually have to bring it back a little bit. We'll see. But people are playing them. They're enjoying them. If they're enjoying them, they're going to play them more often than the others. The other one's losing power. They're losing in the fight. They're going to just gravitate away from them. And I don't want that. I think every single class is designed around a couple principles. The detection of their ship. Battleships obviously have a huge detection range because of the power and the alpha damage that they bring. They can one-shot you. So you should have fair warning of the one-shot. At 8-kilometer range, you don't really get a lot of opportunities to avoid it. If you're in a cruiser that has terrible armor, you can't really pull out torpedoes to level the playing field. You know, at least in a 1v1 at 8-kilometer range, you could take them with you. You can't do that in a US cruiser. You gotta live with the consequences. And the consequences are gonna be heavy, and they're gonna hurt a lot. I think it's very dangerous to touch the detectability of ships, because that is a primary stat that Wargaming uses to balance them. And I'm sure they see this. They're not dumb. They know. Oh wow. These classes, whenever the weather pattern occurs, and they definitely keep these stats, whenever the weather pattern occurs, these classes have a higher win rate than they would have before the weather pattern. I just know that exists. And I know if the stat is too skewed, they will not continue it. They just won't. They want players to feel like any class, any ship they pull, they have a chance at winning. Now, some more than others, the York, have an issue with this, and I know they're addressing it. The late tier US battleships are getting a buff to address their lower win rate when compared to the Japanese battleships. And that's great. I think Wargaming kind of dropped the ball in World of Tanks, where they were completely fine with a lot of tanks being bad for a long time. And I think that hurt them. I think they're moving away from that. I think they're more interested in creating unique experiences that have a chance of success And obviously it's a dream to get 50% across the board. That's never going to happen in any game ever. But some of these classes, the Atlanta, are really far away from 50% win rate. They need help. And you're only enhancing the failure of some of them by changing the vision game. The vision game is very much key to the center of ship balance in this game. What I would like to see, instead of a global vision change, I would like to see localized events that players can take advantage of for flanking opportunities. Maybe they allow you to take an objective easier. A good example of a location of a map that probably doesn't see a lot of play: Two Brothers in the Center Gap. Who's going to be crazy enough to go through that? Yeah. What if you provided a global protective barrier that prevents people from spotting you with aircraft and spotting you with ships until you break through some sort of fog or smoky haze? It would really impact the way you play the map, but you could counter it. You could have people set up, ready to attack. You wouldn't know when they were going to come out of it. I mean, right now you could do the exact same thing, but you know exactly where they are. It's very easy to know when the enemy is going to push through or not push through, and that's why that area of the map is a huge failure for a push. You just can't use it. And it should be a key defensive position. They shouldn't just make every part of the map completely usable. You know, it is important that you have some control over defense and understanding, oh, okay, this part of the map is vulnerable. We need to make sure that we don't allow the enemy to take advantage of it. Another event that could occur, Trap. Trap has a volcano, and in the early versions it had smoke billowing out of it. Either it didn't work out, it didn't communicate to the player, maybe it denied vision. What if it actually does billow out and it provides smoke cover immediately around the island? Maybe lava hits the water and spews up some steam or some sort of smoky coverage that extends the island's protective barrier out for players to use either offensively or defensively. Something like this would be interesting, and it would cause a change in the way you play the match, but it wouldn't make you completely weak globally. You would have the option. Okay, I'm in a US destroyer. I want to go and take advantage of this part of the map. I'm in a Soviet cruiser. I have no interest in putting myself in a position where I lose power. I'm going to stay back. What if on Islands of Ice there were icebergs? Maybe there's an area of the map that is easier to get to the other side of the map, maybe get a flanking opportunity, but you risk running into an island or an iceberg. Yes, it's a iceberg. It's a combination of a glacier and an iceberg. But what if this exists in the game? I think that would be really cool. I think it would add flavor to these maps. I would also love to see nighttime. Wouldn't everyone else? Just imagine the AA going off. You see fighters shooting their guns, secondaries, just the flashes. Oh, it would be so cool, wouldn't it? Now, you could do two things. You could do hugely impactful gameplay, which I don't think any developer is prepared to do, except, of course, Armor guys. They don't care. You know, if it makes it 100 times harder, bring it on. That's the sort of game Arma is. It's like, it's the real deal. You got to deal with it. Not everyone is so willing to make the player experience frustrating. And even if you enjoy nighttime, it does make it tenser. It makes it a lot harder. You have to admit that. Now, you might find joy in making something hard. Boy, that's going to come out wrong. Most people come home from a job they don't like. They're only there for the money so their family can live comfortably. They want some release. And they probably have one game to lose interest or to stay. Every single game is like that. So you have to hit that joy factor, and you have to minimize the frustration. I would love to see nighttime combat, visually at least. I would love to see just the effects going off, people having to decide, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. This game benefits a lot from its UI. It tells you a lot. It communicates a lot, so you can have the environment relatively varied. Whenever I'm in the Cyclone event on North, I don't feel like, oh, if the vision was perfectly normal, I would lose some inherent combat capability. I think I would easily be able to see all the ships just fine. And that's the important thing. They could have these visually impactful weather patterns, nighttime, snow, rain, sleet, you name it, and still be able to communicate where the enemies are, what's coming towards you. I think that works for their game. I think they should embrace the idea of weather a lot, because there's not a lot of games that do it. For whatever reason, weather is just one thing that games don't touch. So I hope it made sense. To me, weather really is an event that changes the baseline. It could be day-night, snow, sleet, storms. It could be an isolated natural phenomenon. It could be a volcanic eruption. It could be a haze rolling in, or what have you. That sort of thing is what I associate weather to be, and I'm sure that's what wargaming associates weather to be, because it's the same sort of system. Please, wargaming, please use the visual introduction during the entire match, or certain parts of the match. Players aren't going to immediately associate vision loss or combat effectiveness dropping. This is a video game, and I don't know about you, but for me, I have played a lot of video games for a long time, and I've had to look at pixels and imagine what they actually represent. You had to use your imagination for most of it, because there just wasn't enough information to communicate. Oh, this is a great sprawling landscape. Oh, you should feel like you're connected to this character because, for whatever reason, you met him 20 years ago and you've stayed in contact. You don't get that. You're playing a video game. You've met this person for 5 minutes. You're willing to put up with a couple instances where the information given does not match up with what you're seeing. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having just purely visual weather patterns. Now, one thing that has come up since I've been recording this, and it's been a while, it's always difficult to just talk about something. You don't want to ramble too much. What if they don't want rain to fall on a ship during combat? Maybe it's an effect in the same manner that fire is, so they share the same layer. And for those who don't know, think of the layers kind of like Photoshop. They can swap in an effect that will go over top of a texture and would add the effect of maybe it's burnt, blackened. Maybe the shell has penetrated and they put a decal over that location where it penetrated visually. It really does add the effect that you're in combat and your ship is taking damage. So maybe they have to add another layer. Maybe they have to deal with that situation where the rain is actually falling on the ship. I didn't pay attention. Is the rain effect on the Colorado when I'm in combat in North Cyclone? If it is, then that's not even an issue. But another issue that might be something that they have to communicate is, why isn't the rain putting out the fire on the ship? This is true. Maybe it just shortens the amount of time that fires stay on the ship. I don't know. That could be something they could do as well. I think there's a lot of things they can do. And a lot of things they can do. And I'm really excited for it. I would love to hear from everyone. And it would be really cool to have the perspective of someone who's gone through some sort of unique weather event in a vessel. I'm someone who has not had the opportunity to go through a megastorm or anything in that nature. I'm someone who's completely ignorant to it, but I know it would be really cool to experience in this game. So if there are more elements that you've seen, maybe a coral reef. That was another thing that they wanted to do. They wanted to have a shallow area on the map that only destroyers could go through. I wonder if they will ever do that. We'll have to see. As far as this game is concerned, that enemy aircraft carrier was so annoying. I think he had fighter survivability. I don't have fighter survivability in this build. And he could just clean up my fighters every single time. He lost almost nothing compared to me. But he's getting his from all sides, and we finally take them out. So, yeah, we won this game. And that island kind of looks like a mitten. I know that's completely random. We got First Blood, Devastating Strike, 3 kills, 9 torpedo strikes, 12 aircraft shot down, 1,627 base XP. The team did a pretty good job of not only protecting me, but pushing the flank, and I assisted them. We did around 65,000 points of damage. I'm pretty happy about that. I hope you appreciated the discussion. I'm very excited to see how weather plays out. I hope you are too. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.